Have you ever noticed how you always end up in the same place? You start out determined, full of plans. You promise yourself that this time will be different. And then, something happens. It's not something you see coming. It's like an invisible force, a hand pulling you back into the comfort of what's familiar, into the territory of your own prison. Jung had a name for this, the shadow. It's not just a theory. It's what happens every day when you look in the mirror and don't recognize who you really are. When you smile on the outside but carry a weight inside that nobody can see. This is the story of your silent self-sabotage, and why it won't go away no matter how many self-help books you read. The truth is that your shadow doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to wake you up. Your fear doesn't want to paralyze you. It wants to protect you from something you forgot. And your sabotage, it's not your enemy. It's the only way your unconscious found to try to show you what you refuse to see. If you've ever felt like something inside you is holding you back, write in the comments, "I know what sabotages me." It might be that other people are also trying to free themselves in silence. Let's start at the beginning. Have you ever wondered why some people just annoy you for no apparent reason? Why certain behaviors make you so uncomfortable? That's your shadow talking, showing you what you reject in yourself. As a child, you quickly learned what wasn't acceptable, what didn't receive love, what caused rejection. Maybe it was your anger, maybe your vulnerability, maybe your spontaneous joy, and you did what you had to do to survive. You pushed those parts down into the basement of your mind, but they didn't die. They just learned how to speak in other ways. That's why you sabotage yourself, because there's a part of you that got rejected and now demands to be heard. Let's look at the patterns. You start new projects with enthusiasm but soon lose interest. That's not laziness. It's fear in disguise. You feel empty even after achieving what you wanted so badly. That's not ingratitude. It's an inner compass showing you that you followed the wrong map. You get irritated with people who display what you repress. That's not judgment. It's envy of what you don't allow in yourself. Jung said the shadow is made up of everything we deny in ourselves. The parts we don't accept, that we don't recognize as ours. It holds your repressed anger, your unprocessed sadness, your unspeakable desires, your undeveloped talents, and the more you deny those parts, the stronger they get. That's why you sabotage your relationships when they start going well. That's why you abandon projects right when they could take off. That's why you self-destruct when you finally reach success. Your shadow won't stand being ignored forever. The more you try to escape it, the more it shows up. In your dreams, in your irritations, in your unexplained bouts of depression. It appears as anxiety attacks when everything seems fine, as insomnia when you should be at peace, as addictions you hide from others. It's the voice that says, "You don't deserve this. This isn't going to last." They'll find out who you really are. Those voices aren't your enemies, they're parts of you screaming to be seen, integrated, loved. Jung didn't believe we should destroy our shadow. He believed we should integrate it, because the shadow holds vital energy. It holds truths. It holds authentic parts that were rejected not because they were bad, but because they were inconvenient to others. The goal isn't perfection, it's wholeness, and it starts when you stop running and decide to look. If something inside you is recognizing this truth right now, comment, "I'm ready to look." Courage begins when we share our inner journey. Let's talk about the symptoms of sabotage. You feel lost, even though you have a map. You feel empty, even though you've achieved everything. You feel lonely even though you're surrounded by people. This happens because you're living a fragmented life, a life where parts of you have been exiled. A classic example is the extremely controlled person who one day explodes for no apparent reason, or the person who's always available to others but suddenly falls mysteriously ill, or someone who never shows anger but suffers from chronic inexplicable pain. The shadow always finds a way. If it can't come in through the front door, it'll come in through the back. So how do we deal with it? First, understand that integrating the shadow doesn't mean acting out every impulse. It means acknowledging them, giving them space, understanding where they come from. When you feel a disproportionate amount of anger, ask, "What is this triggering in me?" When you sabotage yourself, ask, "What part of me is afraid of moving forward?" When you harshly judge someone, ask, "What am I seeing in that person that I don't accept in myself?" These questions open doors to real self-knowledge. Jung called this process making friends with the shadow. Not so it takes control, but so its energy can be reintegrated in service of your wholeness. Because your shadow holds not just your wounds, but your unrecognized gifts. Your rejected vulnerability hides your capacity for genuine connection. Your repressed anger hides your ability to set healthy boundaries. Your denied fear hides your deepest intuition. Here are the practical steps to get started. Observe your disproportionate emotional triggers. They're gateways to your shadow. Pay attention to your dreams. The shadow often appears in symbols and dream figures. Notice your sabotage patterns. When do you give up? When do you undermine yourself? That's your shadow's fear talking. Identify your projections. People you admire too much or hate without any real reason are showing you unacknowledged parts of yourself. Let yourself feel uncomfortable emotions without immediately acting on them. See them as messengers, not enemies. One of the hardest things to accept is that your shadow isn't an accident. It's an essential part of your individuation journey, as Jung would say. It forces you to look where you don't want to look, to feel what you don't want to feel, to acknowledge what you'd rather ignore. And that's exactly why it's your most precious ally on the path to wholeness. The ancient alchemists who inspired Jung had a saying, "Darkness holds the gold. It's in what you fear most that your greatest treasure may lie. It's in what you avoid most that your greatest liberation may be found. It's in what you reject most in yourself that your greatest strength may dwell." Let's imagine a common situation. You finally start that project you've always dreamed of. Everything goes well at first. You're inspired, determined, confident. Then, right when you're about to take the next big step, presenting your work, asking for that promotion, deepening that relationship, something happens. You start procrastinating. You find excuses. You create distractions. And the project that was your passion ends up stalled. If you look at it superficially, you'll think it's just laziness or lack of discipline. But if you look deeper, you'll see it's fear. Fear of success, fear of visibility, fear of rejection. And behind that fear is your shadow, guarding a memory of when you were ridiculed for standing out, or when you were abandoned for showing your brilliance, or when you were punished for being authentic. What looks like sabotage is actually a desperate attempt at protection. Your shadow doesn't know you've grown up, that you now have resources, that the world has changed. It's still operating based on old memories, especially from childhood. And here's the paradox. What saved you in childhood now sabotages you in adulthood. The defense mechanisms that protected you when you were small and vulnerable are now holding you back. The answer isn't to fight this part. It's to talk to it, acknowledge it, thank it for its intention to protect you, and gently show it that you now have new resources, new possibilities, new choices. When you integrate your shadow, something extraordinary happens. The energy that was wasted in internal conflicts becomes available for creating, for loving, for truly living. You stop being your own enemy and become your own ally. Decisions become clearer because they're no longer contaminated by unconscious motivations. Relationships grow deeper because you're no longer projecting your shadow onto others. And life gains a sense of integrity that no external achievement can ever provide. Jung said that the gold is in the darkness. Your greatest gifts, your most authentic calling, your true nature are hidden in the parts of yourself you rejected. When you find the courage to face those parts, you discover that what you feared was actually a treasure in disguise. The vulnerability you were afraid of turns out to be authenticity. The anger you repressed shows itself to be vital strength. The sadness you avoided hides an extraordinary depth of feeling. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's the part of you that holds the keys to your wholeness. Every human being carries both light and shadow. There's no transformation without facing both. Mythical heroes always face their shadows before finding the treasure. You're no different. Your journey of self-discovery necessarily goes through confronting what you denied, repressed, or forgot. And when you find the courage to look at these aspects, you'll see they didn't come to punish you, but to complete you. Make no mistake, this internal sabotage isn't a defect. It's an outdated protection system. An old code running in a new computer. The frightened child inside you still thinks it needs to hide to be loved. The wounded part of you still believes it doesn't deserve success. The rejected teenager inside you still fears exposure. And all those parts are just trying to protect you from the pain they once felt. That's why, when you're about to take an important step, one that exposes you, that makes you vulnerable, they step in. They create anxiety. They lead to procrastination. They invent excuses. They spark unnecessary conflicts, all to keep you in the safe zone of the familiar, even if that familiar place is painful. Because to the shadow, What's known, even if bad, seems less threatening than the unknown. One of the most common manifestations of the shadow is what Jung called projection. You project onto others what you haven't recognized in yourself. So, the person who most criticizes vulnerability in others often fears their own fragility. Someone who judges other people's ambition might be repressing their own desire for success. Someone who condemns the expression of anger probably carries repressed fury. These projections are valuable clues. They show where your shadow is at work. When something about another person irritates you deeply, something that seems totally out of proportion, ask yourself, what is this stirring up in me? What part of me don't I want to see? It's a powerful exercise in self-discovery. Another manifestation of the shadow is compulsion. Addictions, obsessive behaviors, toxic relationship patterns, all have roots in the unintegrated shadow. When you deny a part of yourself, it doesn't vanish. It finds a distorted way to express itself. The denied need for connection may turn into emotional dependency. Repressed anger may turn into passive aggressiveness or random blow-ups. Rejected sensuality may seek expression through self-destructive behaviors. That's why willpower alone rarely works to change deep-rooted patterns. You have to go to the root, the original emotion or need that was denied and now seeks distorted expression. Integrating the shadow is like turning on a light in the basement of your mind. At first you see scary things, fears, shame, old anger, unprocessed sadness. But the more you look, the more you realize they're not monsters. They're just parts of you that needed attention, understanding, integration, and among them, hidden in the deepest shadows, you'll find unexpected treasures, your authenticity, your deepest creativity, your ability to love without fear. Jung believed that the true purpose of life isn't perfection but wholeness. It's not about eliminating your shadow. It's about integrating it, turning it from a saboteur into an ally. It's bringing to light what was hidden in the darkness. It's recognizing all your parts, even the ones that were rejected. It's reclaiming the fullness of who you are. When you do that, the energy once wasted in inner conflict is freed up to create, to love, to grow. You stop fighting against yourself and start collaborating with yourself. What do you sense your shadow is trying to tell you? Comment below. My shadow says, sometimes naming what we feel is the first step toward transformation. This is the greatest work of art you can create. The integration of all your parts into one coherent, vibrant, authentic whole. It's not easy work, or quick. It's a lifelong journey, exploring the darkest corners of your psyche, bringing light to what was hidden, integrating what was fragmented. But each step in this direction brings more energy, more clarity, more freedom. You start to notice that the sabotage lessens. Decisions become clearer. Relationships become deeper. Creativity flows more freely, because you're no longer spending energy fighting parts of yourself. Here are some questions to start your dialogue with the shadow. What qualities do you most admire in other people? They might hint at your own unrecognized gifts. What types of people annoy you deeply for no clear reason? They might reveal what you reject in yourself. In which situations do you always sabotage yourself? They show your deepest fears. Which part of you was never allowed to exist? That's what your shadow may be holding. This dialogue doesn't happen all at once. It's a continuous process of discovery, acceptance, integration. A process that turns your inner sabotage into inner alliance. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's a part of you seeking integration. Your fears aren't your adversaries, they're old guards that need to be updated. Your wounds aren't your weaknesses. They're gateways to your deepest healing. And when you find the courage to face all of this, without judgment, with compassionate curiosity, something extraordinary happens. You become more complete. Not more perfect, but more whole, more real, more alive. That wholeness is what Jung called individuation, becoming who you really are, with all your complexities, contradictions, and depths. This is the most important work of your life. It's not a destination, but a journey, a continuous exploration of the depths of your psyche, a dance between light and shadow, conscious and unconscious, known and unknown. And every step in that dance brings you closer to your deepest truth, to your most radical authenticity, to your most complete humanity. If this video touched something deep within you, don't keep this discovery to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes a message sent at the right moment can spark a transformation. And don't forget to subscribe so we can continue this journey of self-discovery together. Your shadow isn't a monster. It's just a wounded child that learned to hide. Your fear isn't your enemy. It's just a confused guard that doesn't realize the threat is gone. Your sabotage isn't your destruction. It's a cry for integration. When you stop running and decide to look, something miraculous happens. You find not just your wounds, but also your deepest gifts. Not just your weaknesses, but your forgotten strength. Not just your fragmentation, but the path to your wholeness. Jung believed that individuation, becoming who we really are, is the true masterpiece of life. And that masterpiece begins when you find the courage to face your own shadow. Not to condemn it, not to eliminate it, but to integrate it, to dance with it, to turn it into an ally on your path of growth. Darkness carries the gold, the wound holds the gift, the shadow hides the light. And now that you know this, what will you do? Keep running, or finally look? The choice, as always, is yours. If you've ever felt something inside you is holding you back, write in the comments, "I know what sabotages me." Maybe other people are also trying to free themselves in silence. And don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications so you don't miss the next video on how to turn your blocks into creative power.